students. Welcome back to the next session on Service Operations Management. Now let's begin with our learning. In this particular session, we'll be understanding and dealing with the concept of customer satisfaction survey best practices, the learning objectives. At the end of this particular session, the learners will be able to understand what do we mean by customer satisfaction survey, what is the importance of customer satisfaction survey, and what are the various activities undertaken under the customer satisfaction survey. Now let's begin with our learning. The customer satisfaction survey. Customer satisfaction survey is a survey or an analysis of a certain information which we are trying to analyze or which we are trying to identify about the opinion on a certain question or about a certain product or a certain service. So one may learn from the various considerations about on a certain question that whether a customer is happy with the product or whether he is not happy with a certain product. And on the basis of a particular survey or a particular questionnaire that can be given to him, we can come to a conclusion as to what is their level of satisfaction. We can ask a particular customer to rate his experience on the basis of certain questions or certain points. That is, whether he feel or whether he will rate our product or service as outstanding, excellent, very good, good, average, poor, and so on. So on those particular basis, on certain platforms, we can identify and analyze that what is the feeling or feedback about the product. This particular survey can be undertaken either through the physical, that is offline mode, or it can be taken in an online mode. Considering the various COVID-19 or pandemic situation scenario, in the major or the most of the cases, the feedback or the surveys are being conducted in the online mode. But in a usual practice, the physical or the offline, that is paper pencil questionnaire or the survey, are also very widely used in the business organizations or in the markets. Now let's understand what are the various 3 C's of customer satisfaction. The first C of customer satisfaction is consistency. The second C of customer satisfaction is the consistency. And again, the third C of customer satisfaction is consistency. The first consistency is with respect to the product. The second consistency is with respect to the company. And the third consistency is with respect to the consumers. That is, we must always be consistent in providing the qualitative product to the customers. The company should always be consistent in the manufacturing unit, in the product or the manufacturing that they are undertaking, and what level of service delivery they are providing to the customers. And the third C of customer satisfaction is the customer should always be consistent about what products that has been offered to them and how they are going to purchase those particular products, services, commodities, and so on. And hence, the 3 C's of customer satisfaction are essentially implemented. Now let us understand what are the various measures to conduct the customer satisfaction survey. The first is the customer feedback through various surveys. So on the basis of various feedbacks, the survey can be undertaken. The second perspective or the measure is customer satisfaction score. So on the basis of various customer satisfaction score, the surveys can be undertaken, and on those particular basis, we can analyze or we can measure the score of a particular customer. The third perspective is the net promoter score. The fourth is the customer effort score. So on the basis of various efforts or the promotion activities that have been undertaken, we can identify and we can score about what is the satisfaction survey of a particular individual. The fifth perspective or the measures to conduct the customer satisfaction survey is the web analytics. So on the basis of various web analytics, the customer survey analysis can be undertaken, and on those particular basis, the analysis can be undertaken for a certain product. The sixth measures to conduct the customer satisfaction survey is social media metrics. That is, what are the various performances of the product or a certain consumers or the products or the services on the social media platforms. On those particular basis, the social media metrics can be undertaken. Now let us understand what are the various examples that helps to improve the customer satisfaction. Number one, the first we need to do is we need to listen to the customers. Number two is we have to always be proactive and accordingly act honestly and manage the expectations of the customers. And only then the customer satisfaction survey can be undertaken in a very better way and in very considerable way. The third perspective is understanding the customers. So understanding the customer is very essentially important, and only on those particular basis we can come to a conclusion as to whether the customer is actually or really happy and satisfied or not. Now let us understand what are the various customer satisfaction survey best practices. The best practices that for a customer satisfaction survey are, we need to keep the survey as simple and as short. We should only ask those questions which can fulfill our end goal and excessive or additional or some irrelevant questions should be avoided. The questionnaire that we have designed should always be very smart and always have an open-ended questions. And hence, avoidance of closed-ended questions should be there in the organized questionnaire that we are using or that we are preparing. Asking one question at a time. So if a particular survey is being undertaken in a part of a physical or one-on-one communication with the customer, then accordingly only one question should be asked at one time, making the rating scales consistent. So accordingly, the rating scales that have been associated with the questionnaire should be very consistent, and accordingly, either nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio scale should be used in the questionnaire. Avoiding the leading and the loaded questions, and accordingly, such type of questions which are always leading and which may hamper the image of an individual or which may load a certain customer, such type of questions should be avoided. Making the use of yes no questions. So accordingly, the yes no question should be avoided and such type of questions should be not used in our survey. Getting the specific and avoid the assumptions. So accordingly, getting the specific information of the customers should also be avoided, and we must avoid the assumption based questions also. Now let us understand what are the various sample, or let us deal with the various sample customer satisfaction survey questions. Number one, how long have you been using these particular products? So such type of questions can be asked to the customers, wherein the customer can give a very simple answer as to for a period of 1 year, for a period of 2 years, for more than. So on that particular basis, the customer can also give you an answer about for what duration they are using those particular product and how those particular product is being used for either 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, or more than 2 years, and so on. The second sample question is, which alternative did you consider before purchasing this product? So here in this case, we can provide the various alternatives as product A, product B, product C, and so on. And hence, a specific answer can be received as to which are the various alternatives the customer are preferring before purchasing our product or this product of our company. The next question or the sample question that can be asked is, how often do you use this particular product or not, or a particular service? So a particular specific time period, that is for a frequency of 1 month, for a frequency of 15 days, for a frequency of 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, and so on. So accordingly, the frequency of often usage of this particular product can be asked. Does the product help you achieve your goals? So accordingly, we can specifically ask that at what level or what does the product is been helpful for achieving the goals or not. That is, yes or no questions can be answered. And lastly, what is your favorite tool or portion of this particular product or particular service? So accordingly, the various list down or a certain set of series of activities can be provided, and accordingly, the customer can tick or provide a certain set of answer about which is the favorite tool or portion of the product or service. The various guides to the question. So now, what are the various guidelines that needs to be provided for a better defining of a certain questionnaire? So when it comes to the client satisfaction survey, the goal is to always see that our questionnaire or our question is always as brief or as simple as possible. The question that we are trying to limit or that we try to ask to a consumer, it's always there should be a limit of at least 3 to 5 minutes to ask to a certain consumer. That is for a conversation, and only 15 to 20 questions should be asked to the customers. And accordingly, customers enjoy nothing more than a long and a drawn out survey. And accordingly, our survey should also be very specific, simple, precise, and to the point. And hence, we must abandon or we must try to avoid answering the bogus questions or unavoidable or repetitive questions. The customer survey method. So customer survey method is the very best effective method to collect the data from the customers, and accordingly, it should be always very simple, specific, precise, which tries to collect and identify about the specific information about a certain product or a service that we are using for a specific point of time. The marketers prefer these particular customer survey methods for paper questionnaires in order to see that they have a proper one-on-one conversation with the customers, and accordingly, how those customers can provide the data in an effective scenario or a particular mode. Now let us understand what are the various steps to conduct an effective survey. So determining, first we need to determine who will participate in the survey, then deciding what type of survey will be undertaken, whether it will be an email survey, whether it will be an online survey, or whether it will be a physical or in-person survey that will be undertaken from the customers. The third step to conduct a particular effective survey is designing the survey questions and the layout. So accordingly, we need to design the survey questions, and according to the layout for those particular questions needs to be designed. The fourth perspective is distributing the surveys. So accordingly, we need to identify to whom the survey needs to be distributed and how actual distribution of this particular survey can be undertaken. analyzing the responses. So accordingly, we need to analyze what responses we have collected, and accordingly, analysis and interpretation of those particular data is essentially important. And lastly, writing up the results. So accordingly, we need to write up the results as to the based on the findings or the inputs that we have collected on the basis of data that we have collected. So it is very essential to identify how or what type of data we are collecting and whether the particular data that we are collecting is very qualitative and quantitative or not. There should be a proper series of activities that needs to be conducted while analyzing a particular survey, and a proper set of series of questions as to WH questions, open-ended questions, multiple choice questions, and so on. A proper combination of all questions needs to be used in a business organization or a particular survey. So customer satisfaction survey, it is always dependent on the survey qual model. The survey qual model focuses on 5 categories, that is dependability, responsiveness, assurance, empathy, and tangibles. And hence, effective survey qual models identifies about what is the actual service delivery for a certain product or a certain commodity or a certain service, which indicates that a disconnect between the consumer expectations and survey perceptions can be identified and what needs to be actually delivered to the consumers. Now let's summarize what we have learned in this particular session. In this particular session, we have understood what do we mean by a customer satisfaction survey, what are the various activities that are being performed under the customer satisfaction survey, and what are the benefits of customer satisfaction survey. Simultaneously, we have also seen what are the various modes of or the tools for the customer satisfaction service and how those particular tools or customer satisfaction service be implemented in the business organizations. I hope you must have enjoyed the learning in this particular session. We'll stay connected and we'll continue with our learning. Thank you for your patience listening. Thank you.